My grandmother left me her house. I'm recording this from inside, and I don't think I'll ever leave. By silent screams. Don't forget to like and subscribe. My name is Alex, and I'm a historian. Or at least I was. I deal in facts, in timelines, in the quiet, dusty certainty of the past. The dead are supposed to stay dead. Their stories confined to paper and stone. That's the rule. But the thing about rules is you have to be in the right place to follow them. And this is the wrong place. I'm recording this because I don't know what else to do. The batteries on my laptop are dying, and the whispers are getting louder. They're telling me things no one should ever know. It all started 2 weeks ago with a letter from a lawyer I'd never met telling me about a house I never knew existed. My grandmother Alina had passed away. I hadn't seen her since I was a child. My mother never spoke of her, and any questions I had were met with a stony silence that I learned not to push. The letter said she had left me everything, her sole heir. The everything in question was a house. A house on a road called Stillwater Lane, in a town I had to look up on a map. Oakhaven. It was a forgotten speck of a place, nestled deep in the mountains. Hours from anything resembling a city. As a recent graduate with a mountain of student debt and no immediate job prospects, the idea of inheriting property was, to put it mildly, a godsend. My plan was simple. Drive out there, clear the place out, and sell it as fast as humanly possible. I imagined a quaint, if neglected cottage. I packed some boxes, my laptop, and enough supplies for a few days of work, picturing a quick and profitable trip. The drive itself should have been my first warning. The further I got from the highway, the more the world seemed to fade. The roads narrowed, cracked pavement giving way to gravel. The trees, ancient and heavy with moss, leaned over the lane, their branches knitting together to form a suffocating canopy that choked out the sun. There was no cell service. Of course, there are ways in single quotes. And then I saw it. The house on Stillwater Lane wasn't quaint. It was a monstrosity. 2-story Victorian relic that looked like it had been pulled from a nightmare. The paint was a ghost of its former white, peeling away to reveal dark, weathered wood underneath. The porch sagged. One of its support columns rotted through and tilted at a drunken angle. The windows were like vacant eyes, coated in decades of grime. It was a place that time and everything good in the world had abandoned. The air was heavy, and still thick, with the scent of damp earth and decay. The silence was absolute, not even broken by the chirping of birds. It was a dead silence, with a deep breath that did nothing to calm the sudden tremor in my hands. I took the rusted key from my pocket and approached the door. The lock groaned. In protest, a long, screeching complaint that echoed in the unnerving quiet. The door swung inward on a gust of stale, musty air, and I stepped across the threshold. Into the beginning of the end, the inside was a chaotic maze of a life I couldn't comprehend. My grandmother, it turned out, wasn't just a recluse. She was an obsessive. Every surface was buried under stacks of books, yellowed newspapers, and handwritten notes. The furniture was draped in white sheets, making the room look like a morgue for forgotten belongings. But as I began to sift through the mess, a theme emerged. Everything, and I mean everything, was about Oakhaven's local history. Specifically one place, the Blackwood Pines Sanatorium. As a historian, I was intrigued. Sanatoriums from the early 20th century were often brutal places, a dark chapter in medical history. According to my grandmother's notes, Blackwood Pines had been particularly infamous. It was built in 1908 and shut down in 1947 after a massive fire and rumors of unspeakable patient abuse. The notes were meticulous, detailing experimental treatments, patient records, and architectural blueprints. It seemed she had dedicated her life to researching this one long-demolished building. I figured it was just a morbid hobby, the obsession of a lonely old woman. I packed her research into boxes, labeling them archive, and focused on the more sellable items. That first night, the house began to speak. It started as a faint sound, almost imperceptible. A soft, dry whisper like sand skittering across a wooden floor. I'd be in the kitchen, wiping down a century of grime from the counters, and I'd hear it from the living room. I'd go to check and there'd be nothing. Just the silent, sheet-covered furniture standing like silent sentinels. I blamed it on the wind, on old pipes, on an imagination supercharged by the creepy atmosphere. But the sound was persistent. It seemed to move. Sometimes it came from upstairs, a soft, scraping sound, like fingernails being dragged lightly along the wall. Other times it was closer, a faint murmur from just behind me, so quiet that by the time I turned around I couldn't be sure I'd heard anything at all. On the third day, I found the journals. They were hidden beneath a loose floorboard in her bedroom, wrapped in oilcloth and tied with twine. There were a dozen of them, leather-bound and filled with her elegant, spidery script. These weren't research notes. These were personal. This was where the truth began to unravel. The first entry that chilled me to the bone was dated 40 years ago. The day she moved into the house. Asterisk, October 12th. I am finally here. The house is unsettling. The agent said it was a bargain. Built with salvaged materials after the war, but I know better. I've seen the markings on the support beams in the cellar. The faded stencils. They're from Blackwood Pines. The town was so desperate to forget, they let the contractor haul away whatever he could from the ruins. He didn't just take bricks and timber, he took the walls. And the walls remembered. My blood ran cold. I dropped the journal and scrambled downstairs, my flashlight beam cutting frantically through the darkness of the cellar. On a massive dark wood beam holding up the entire structure was a faded stenciled marking, BPS, West Wing. This house, this place I was sleeping in, was built from the bones of an asylum, a place of pain and misery. I stumbled back up the stairs, my heart hammering against my ribs, and forced myself to keep reading. The journals got darker. November 3rd. The whispers have started. I knew they would. At first, they are just sounds, the echoes of old pain. But they are learning. They feed on presence, on life. They are curious. I hear them in the static of the radio, in the rustle of the leaves outside my window. They are the voices of the forgotten, the ones who died within those walls. Their agony is baked into the timber and plaster, the forgotten. The words echoed in my mind. I thought of the patient files I had boxed up, the names and the horrifying treatments listed beside them. Hydrotherapy that was little more than drowning, electroshock administered without anesthetic, solitary confinement in rooms no bigger than a coffin. That night, the whispers changed. They were no longer just indistinct murmurs. I was in the study, sorting through a box of old photographs when I heard it, clear as day, a woman's voice, so faint it was like a sigh. Cold. So cold. I froze, every muscle in my body locking up. It came from the corner of the room, from the deep shadows. Where the lantern light didn't reach, I stared into the darkness, expecting to see someone, something. But there was nothing. Just the oppressive, suffocating silence rushing back in. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in a chair in the middle of the living room, a fireplace poker, in my white-knuckled grip, listening, and the house listened back. The whispers came and went, weaving through the silence. A man's cough from upstairs. A child's soft cry from the kitchen. A chorus of faint, overlapping voices that I couldn't quite make out, like a radio tune between stations. They were ghosts of sound, memories trapped in the very fabric. Of the house, the next day, I read the final journal entry. It was from 2 months before my grandmother died. Her handwriting was shaky, almost illegible. January 21st. They know me now. They speak my name. They know about the boy. My grandson. They sense him. The bloodline. I was a fool to think I could contain them. This house isn't a home, it's a cage. But it needs a keeper. The curse of this place is bound to the land, but it is anchored by the blood of its architect. My grandfather. He designed Blackwood Pines. He oversaw its construction. He knew what happened there, and his sin has passed down through me.
Ow.
It seeks the next in line. It seeks Alex. I have tried to protect him by staying away, by never speaking his name aloud. But the walls have heard my thoughts. They've learned it from my heart. I am weak now. I can feel them pulling at me, trying to make me one of them. I must leave him the house. It is the only way. He must come. He must take my place. It is a tomb, and the family must stay with its dead. I felt the air leave my lungs. A curse. Bloodline, my great-grandfather. This wasn't random. I wasn't just an heir. I was a sacrifice. She hadn't left me a house. She had left me a prison. And as if on cue, as if the house knew I had finally understood, I heard it, not a sigh, not a murmur, but a clear, distinct whisper that snaked through the air from the hallway right behind me. "Alex," I screamed. It was a raw, primal sound of pure terror. I spun around, poker raised, but the hallway was empty. The voice had been so close, it felt like someone had breathed the word directly into my ear. "We've been waiting, Alex." This time it was a different voice, deeper, harsher. It came from the stairs. It backed away, my eyes darting into every shadow, every corner. The house was awake, and it was hungry. That's when the storm hit. The sky, which had been clear moments before, turned a bruised purple-gray. The wind howled, rattling the window panes like skeletal fingers. Rain began to lash against the house in violent sheets. I ran for the door, my only thought to get out, to get to my car and drive until the sun came up. The front door wouldn't budge. I threw my shoulder against it. But it was as if it were sealed with iron. The lock was unlocked, the handle turned, but the door was held fast by something else. "You can't leave," whispered a chorus of voices, seeming to come from every direction at once. "You belong to us now. You are the keeper." Panic clawed at my throat. I was trapped. I ran from room to room, trying every window, every door. Nothing would open. They were all sealed tight. The whispers were constant now, a symphony of torment. They told me their names. Jacob, who died of pneumonia in the West Wing infirmary. Sarah, a girl of only 10, who starved in an isolation cell. Mr. Abernathy, who threw himself from the roof. They showed me things. In the reflection of a dark window, I didn't see myself. But the gaunt, hollow-dyed face of a man in old-fashioned striped pajamas, his mouth open in a silent scream. A child's laughter, sharp and cold, echoed from the empty nursery upstairs. The smell of antiseptic and sickness would suddenly fill a room, so thick and cloying it made me gag, only to vanish moments later. The power, which had been miraculously working, finally died. The house was plunged into an even deeper darkness, broken only by the frantic beam of my dying flashlight. The whispers grew bolder, more physical. I felt a cold touch on the back of my neck, like ghostly fingers. A book flew off a shelf, hurled by an unseen force. The sheets covering the furniture began to stir and billow as if people were shifting restlessly beneath them. I retreated to the study, barricading the door with a heavy desk. It's where I am now. My laptop screen is the only light I have left. I've been typing this all out, a final historical record, I suppose. My own. The scratching at the door has started. It's not the sound of fingernails anymore, it's deeper. The sound of splintering wood. The whispers are all chanting now, single phrase over and over. One of us. One of us. One of us. They're telling me about the architect, my great-grandfather. He didn't just design the sanatorium. He used it. He performed his own grotesque experiments in the cellar, hidden from the official records. He believed that the human soul could be tethered to a physical place through intense trauma. He used the patients to test his theories. He wanted to create a monument of immortal energy. He succeeded. And when the sanatorium burned down, he helped salvage the materials to build this house. He trapped the souls he tormented here with his own bloodline to act as their eternal jailer. The desk is moving, scraping against the floor as something pushes on the door from the other side. The wood is groaning. The whispers are getting inside my head. I can hear their thoughts, feel their pain, their endless looping agony. The cold. Oh God, the cold is seeping into the room. It's a damp, grave-like cold that sinks right into your bones. I think I see him sometimes, in the corner of my eye. The architect, my great-grandfather. A tall, shadowy figure in the darkness. He's not one of them. He's their master. He's waiting for me. The door just splintered. A crack has appeared. I can see faces in the darkness beyond. Pale, shifting faces with dark, empty eyes. They're all looking at me. They're all smiling. My grandmother wasn't the first keeper. She wasn't the last. The battery is about to die. The light is fading. The whispers are so loud now. But one voice is rising above the others. It's my own. But it's not me speaking. Not anymore. It's coming from the walls. My name is Alex, and I am a historian. I deal in the quiet, dusty certainty of the past. The dead are supposed to stay dead. That's the rule. But here, in the house on Stillwater Lane, we don't follow the rules. We are the rules.